Welcome to tonight. It's going to be amazing, incredible turnout, lots of people, really exciting, and I guess I'm going on first. I didn't know that.
What's up, everybody? He is the host of the Pursuing Purpose podcast. He is a very sought-after content creator, filmmaker, storyteller, and he is a passionate advocate of the development and advancement of young adults. Just a super cool dude who's also been traveling the world for the past 10 years. Let's watch a short video on BC Serna.
What do you desire? What makes you itch? What would you like to do if money were no object? Well, how would you really enjoy spending your life? Forget the money. That's not what you want. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Therefore, it's so important to consider this question. What do I desire?
That was so awesome. Literally that for BC Serna. First off, watching that video was very inspiring. I listened to a lot of your podcasts last night, which I highly recommend, Pursuing Purpose podcast. Check it out. Thanks. Watching you on social and then kind of checking you out, you think you're this dude who kind of came from a lot of stuff. You traveled your whole life, but actually just the opposite. And so I want to unpack this for a second, but you grew up in Colorado. You got a basketball scholarship to play at D3 in Texas, right?
Yeah. I was a walk-on, though. I didn't get a scholarship.
It's all right. You got a scholarship. But you got injured, and then kind of a chance encounter, you found out about this program called Up With People to travel, to really study abroad. I want you to tell us about this experience because you've never traveled much, and hearing you on your podcast last night, this guy told you about the program, said they had some creative slots open. Basically, it'd almost be on a dance troupe. It was 100 people from 25 different countries, and you never really left the U.S. at that point.
Yeah.
Tell us that experience. Where did you go, and tell us about that first experience.
Has anyone heard of the organization Up With People? Raise your hand. Yeah, some of the older timers. I'm not saying you're old. It's an old program. It's been around for over 50 years, and it's called Up With People. And it's the first it's a performing arts and cultural immersion program. It was like one of the first ones, kind of around back in the 60s. And they thought music was a good way to bring people together. And so they started performing music around the U.S., and then they somehow got connected with the world, and they traveled the world with international young adults performing music. And they were actually the first show ever to perform at the halftime Super Bowl show. And then they performed at the Super Bowl halftime show 4 times since then. It's called Up With People. You probably never heard of it, which is crazy, but they've traveled. They're a nonprofit organization. Is there a photo of them? Oh, okay. And I'm not trying to plug them, but I just wanted to give you an update. So they've been around the world. They travel. They stay with host families. They do volunteer work. And then they perform a cultural immersion show that is like songs and dances from around the world. And then they use the message and the stage to share unity, that we have a lot more in common than we don't have in common. So anyway, I found out about them. They had a booth at my college, and the guy that was sitting at the booth just looked like he was bored. So I went up and started talking to him, and he told me about this program, and I didn't really care for it because I knew about these programs, but I knew I could never afford it. Like I was, in debt in college and stuff. And then there's a performing aspect piece of it. And I was in the school musical in high school, and so I said I sing and dance and stuff a little bit. Well, I dance, I don't really sing. And he's like, well, we have a performing arts aspect, and we need male dancers, so maybe you can join and we can give you a scholarship. And I got a full ride scholarship in this program. It was like $12,000 at the time.
And so where'd you guys go first? Or it was
So it's 120 students from 25 countries, young adults, like young 20-year-olds, and we went around the U.S. a little bit, stayed with host families, and then went to Mexico. And throughout Mexico, we're called Up With People in Mexico. It's called Viva la Gente. And we're actually like famous there. Viva la Gente is famous there, where we have 5,000 people at our show.
Wow. And
we had to get like police escorted, and it was really crazy. And we like performed for the president there in DF in Mexico City. Stayed with host families, it was amazing. And then we went to Thailand. And so we only went to Mexico and Thailand in the 6-month program. But the group of students was from 120, or it was 120 from like 30-something countries. And so I had friends, you know, from like everywhere around the world, you can imagine. So it really opened up different perspectives that I could have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so it went from you're this guy who grew up in Colorado to now you're just literally going around the world with this new group of friends, and opened you up tremendously. But from there, then you actually continued on with the organization. And as BC mentioned, they stay with host families, right, which is the key component.
Yeah.
I want you to start telling us about, so working for them and having to find host families. Philippines is one place you said was kind of one of the biggest challenges for you. Tell us about the Philippines.
Has anybody been to the Philippines? Couple? Cool. So I was 19 years old, and you been?
I'm from the Philippines.
You're Filipino.
There you go. There you go.
So I went there when I was 19, so this was like 11 years ago. So I traveled when I was 19, and then I got the job with them. Went there, they sent me there for 3 months to find host families. So my job with other people was I was to go to a country and find 100 host families and volunteer work and cultural immersion programs. And it was the hardest job in the world because like they literally drop you off and they say, figure it out. And so I had to like sneak into events and sneak on stage and try to figure out how to find host families. And I lived in like the slum area. And
wait, how long were you in the Philippines?
Like 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah. And my host family was like in this like lower income area where there's like, you know, trash and kind of the slums, I guess. And outside Manila, and my host mom had 4 kids, and she slept with like her kids, and I got her bed, which is still like half my size, kind of. And I was asked, I think the story you're talking about is when like I asked her why she hosted me, because like some nights we just had rice for dinner, and it was really like kind of, you know, intense experience, and I was like, you know, why did you host me? Just curious, like at your heart. And she, because it seemed like it was a tough thing, like just eating rice. It was like tough to feed her kids, so it was tough feeding me too. And then she's like, well, I know my kids would never be able to travel the world, so I wanted to like bring a piece of the world inside to my house. Yeah, it was.
How powerful is that?
Yeah, and so for me, I was like, because it was my first time out of the country along with the other program, and it just opened up a whole paradigm of like selflessness, and like she slept in one bed with her 4 kids while I got a bed. And yeah, you know, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I can't complain about eating rice at night. Like, you know, this mom is just hoping to like give her kids a glimpse of the world. So
That's extraordinary.
yeah.
I think you're a perfect example of the person who's really been transformed through travel. I want to get into a little more in a second of like, again, you traveled for almost 10 years and had the dream job, as you said, finding these host families and doing stuff. That's a pretty powerful conversation that woman just shared with you. So for you going forward from there, was it just kind of like this aha moment? Were there days like almost like that, constantly of just like being transformed and blown away and living in different countries with that?
Yeah, I think at that moment was something clicked where I realized I mean, if you have been to more than one country, you're part of 1% of 1%. You know, the fact that most of the world will never leave their, you know, town or for sure their country. Now, but like, you know, 11 years ago it was a little more intense, and now a little bit more, but still I was like I realized how fortunate I was. And then, yeah, my host families became like the whole thing of like my travels. I just wanted to learn the language and just be really close with my families, and that moment for sure clicked where I was like, I'm never going to take the host families for granted, for sure. So I was 23 and I was like, all right, I'm going to move back to the US and just work with high school kids and try to get them to travel, because I was taking college students around the world, and I noticed, I took thousands of students around the world, and I noticed that, and they were older than me, I was still young, I was you know, in my early 20s, and I noticed that they were kind of already bitter and burnt out, like they kind of already chose their major, went in debt, and they were kind of like already like, they were doing the program, which was awesome, but they were kind of already like chipping away. And I thought, if I can get high school kids to travel the world before they go to college, before they choose the major, before they hopefully they take a gap year and do this program, then maybe they won't be so weathered and burnt out and bitter. So I moved back home to just work with youth, and then started mentoring a group of inner city kids from Denver through a program called Young Life. And I moved to like the urban area of Denver and was living in this area, and then started mentoring this group of students and just fell in love with them and just became like my brothers. And then one day it just like, I don't remember how it happened, but I remember it was like, man, it'd be incredible to take one of these dudes across the world with me, if I can mix my passion and my purpose, because it was like my passion is these kids and video and stuff, and then my purpose is also these students, and then it ended up happening. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's us in Costa Rica.
So where are you, both these guys?
So this is Devontae. We went to Costa Rica and we built homes with a Latin American organization called Techo, and then did the same with Jerome. So we raised money to build homes, and then you build a home with the person that's going to be moving into it. So this little girl, Helena, is like, we built her house. And so we went to these areas, yeah, and you raised $3,000. So Techo was founded in Argentina, and now it was founded by college students. And they were like, how do we help our own country and communities? And so locals found it, and then now they're in 22 different Latin American countries, and they build homes, and you build it with the community. So you build it with the person moving in, but then also 200 college and high school kids from that area come out and build it with you. And so, yeah, it was fun.
Amazing. Dude, I just really want to acknowledge you. My big thing is that travel really does transform. And I'm a really big fan of what it does. And to see how it really shifted your whole life, like I just really commend you, and I think you're just really doing big things. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thanks.
My question to you is, what does travel mean to you?
Travel is obviously really beautiful and amazing when your bubbles popped and your whole life is questioned, and you question your beliefs, you question your identity, you question everything you know. And I think travel just, it's not the thing that it changes you, but it mostly changes you because it challenges you. And when you're challenged, you change, right? And so that idea that it just like, it makes you think bigger and different, in a different perspective. And so I guess like you travel and then you see, you're like, wow, I have a kind of like, not a responsibility, but an opportunity to like do something bigger. Like I said, I was just in a bubble my whole life, focused on myself. And then I was kind of like, introduced. And I guess like the reason I feel like I'm so committed to like help so many people or like give back is because I was like given a second chance in life. Like I was literally on the road to like, just doing college. I'm not good at school at all. Like I did really bad, and I was like going into debt. And for some reason, I got like a second chance. And when I was 19, I got this job with other people, which I didn't deserve because everyone that applied for it like had college degrees, and I somehow got the job. So I just felt like I was like, dang, I really need to make sure like I do something with a second chance. I feel like.
Well done, dude. All right, so again, Pursuing Your Purpose podcast. Check them out. I'm sure you'll talk about when this tour does happen next and give it a little more runway so you can get out and spend some time places. Again, I appreciate your time, but I appreciate what you're doing and how travel has really kind of transformed you. And UC Serna, man, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, guys.